And we're live.
I,
January 8th. This is the second show of the new year. We did our first one on the first. That was pretty cool. What's going on, Joey?
hey, good morning. Happy second New Year.
Yeah. Shit, yeah. All right, let's burn through the news and then we'll talk nerd stuff because today's Grafana Day, but we'll get to that at the end. Let's see. So, Onocoy. Let me see if I can get these right. They had, so I, with my neighbor, I was doing this, checking our lot lines, our property lines a while ago, and Onocoy had this thing where you spent $25 and then $20 immediately disappeared. And it wasn't clear what was happening. And I wrote them, I'm like, hey, I think I got overcharged. And then they wrote me back. They're like, no, that was a mistake. We're going to fix the messaging. So they're fixing that. So I just thought it was pretty cool to see that they're acting on like all the little things about user experience around that. And then it's $25 a month. It's $20 a month to like have the service. And then you get $5 in credits, which is 5 hours, which is a shitload. I use like, I don't know, an hour and a half fucking around with my neighbor being completely inefficient. I was like, I wonder how much that would cost on one of the big players, and Trimble is the only one I knew about. So I looked up at Trimble, and Trimble is $308 a month. So kind of a cool thing to see like Web3 is crushing. Siegfried, Kevin, Keenan, Travis, what's up, killers? Greg. Shit, yeah. So that was the Onocoy news. Anyone has got this thing where they just they're shipping their hardware. I got notification for my hardware, which I dilly-dallied on forever. I bought the NFTs forever ago, and then that was a super complex thing. Finally got all my stuff in for that and did the orders in December, and they're shipping them out. I don't know, they'll be here in a couple days. I just bought, Joey, I was thinking of you, a Ubiquity switch because I'm putting them all on different public static IPs, and I was just going to like, oh, fuck, I'll do that out in the garage. And I was like, oh, I thought of Joey when I did the switch because of the off-grid thing that you did. And then
Oh
anyone
yeah.
also announced something they're doing. I don't know. Arweave put them on their page. There's a link in the description if you want to go check that out. Helium news. Let's see. Mario had his discussion with the wireless nerd. You can check out that link if you want to catch up on the mobile stuff and what's going on there. And then HIP 140 discussion is open. And that's boosted rewards only granted to hotspots that maintain a sufficient number of ongoing unique connections. I'm guessing that's just like, hey, we're only going to pay you if you actually do something. Probably what that
Yeah.
comes down to.
Um, yeah. It basically, if you want to understand alpha on wireless networks, listen to Mario. Like
Okay.
he is a constant stream of that stuff. So I
Yeah.
definitely recommend, throwing that on in the background or something. But yeah, that HIP is basically just protecting these boosted hexes.
Cool. Yeah, that's right. It was the boosted Texas thing that I missed. Yeah, Mario's rad. Let's see. Hivemapper stuff. So I got an angry fellow in my Discord, 619, is super upset that he did the switch out. I think this is what happened. I could be wrong here, but I think I understand this. Is that some point early last year or maybe late the year before, but in the last 11 months, something like that, 12 months, Hivemapper said, hey, if you ordered an HDC and want to get the much better, faster, newer B, we can switch it out
Mm.
now for you. And it'll ship just a little bit later than the HDC. And it turns out it ships a lot later than the HDC. And so that is pissing off at least one of their community members. And if I'm any measure, or if I'm any guesser of like how pissed off the rest of them are, it's probably pretty ticked for anyone that did that. So it looks like but they're working hard on everything else. They're opening up a ton of bursts. I live in San Diego, for those of you who don't know. There are giant fires up in LA, about 60 to 100 miles north of me. And I saw that new bursts are open in LA. My guess, and I'm probably racing way ahead here, is that forward-thinking insurance companies will be using Hivemapper bursts to check out a damage assessment. At least that's what I would do if I wanted to like crush it and I worked at an insurance company. I was like, hey, we should use this new technology. And that would be super cool for Hivemapper, even though it's terrible for the folks who have lost their houses, including a good friend of mine. So I just found out about that like 10 minutes ago. Let's
Sorry to hear
see.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, these fires are it's part of living in California. Demo World, they're at CES. They had like a bunch of news. They always do. If you want to know which DePIN releases the most news every week, it's Demo. They win flat out 100%. They fucking crush on news releases. But they had one thing in particular I thought was cool, which is a Home Assistant integration. So for us nerds, if you want to
Mm.
integrate your Demo with your Home Assistant, there's a link down in the description for that. I thought that was awesome because I think Home Assistant's cool, but it is admittedly a pretty nerdy thing. Let's see. Wingbits didn't have any news that I saw, other than like some Santa thing, which I don't know. Wingbits is rad, but the Santa Watcher was like, whatevs. Spexi is, remember they had the delays a while ago where they're going to put stuff up in Tampa and Texas, and I think there was a shit show with a storm, so they delayed it in December. They're also going to be launching in Honolulu, in Hawaii, Tennessee, and Phoenix, Arizona this year. So if you're a Spexi drone person, every time I read their thing, I'm like, I should get a fucking drone and like figure out my FAR 107 and do that stuff, and then I get stuck back into the Helium grant. I'm like, fuck it, I don't have time for any of this shit. WeatherXM announced that they had a couple data gaps due to the final phasing out of the Helium VIP console. I know that Tommy Remmert over at Lone Star took over 1663, so he's probably going to do a super good job with that. But I will tell you right now in public, I reached out to him, I was like, if you guys want to use Media Scientific, I will get you a fucking good price. I would love to have WeatherXM on Media Scientific, and it does seem appropriate given the name, but they probably won't do it.
Now's the time. Yeah.
Yeah, I fucking love that. Let's see, almost at the last piece of news, Wi-Fi Dabba. I just want to say congrats to Atlas Dragon. He has been a part of the Helium community for a while. He's been hustling for a job in DePIN and looks like he found one over at Dabba, so congrats to Atlas on that. He's coming on board as their community manager. I thought that was rad. And then special shout out, I don't think I have their logo here. Maybe Kevin will figure this thing out. Nils at Oculabs is probably like the biggest marketing hustler, and I say that with all due respect. Like, that guy hustles hard on marketing. If any of the DePIN founders out there want to know how to do it, watch what Nils is doing. And they've got a Twitter Spaces. It's not just Aki, so it's EV3. It's Salad EV3. Demo, the folks at Anyone, client of ours, and then Aki, Jackal, and ICN are doing this doing this X Space at 6 a.m. Pacific, so pretty fucking early, on January 10th. So in 2 days, I think today Wednesday, so Friday.
Okay.
If you wake up super early, go watch what they're doing. And they do a super good job. Again, link is down in the description. The last piece of news that I've got is just kind of the GK catch up. Today is Grafana Day. I've been working on the grant Hell for Leather for as long as I remember now, a couple weeks. Lee was laughing at me because we started talking about this in December, Joey. And she's like, why aren't you working on the grant? I'm like, dude, it's going to take like a week of hard work. I got this. I'm going to take like a little bit of break. And I was working on a bunch of other projects. And then I got stuck into this. And I think like a real coder could probably have just done this way faster, but I'm just working with Cursor, GPT, or whatever. And so it's just less efficient. Super fun. I'm learning a ton, but and I've got to the part where the Node-RED is set up. The kind of one command installation for installing Node-RED, InfluxDB, and Grafana is working, and I'm now working on the tutorial for setting up Grafana dashboards.
Nice.
It's pretty cool. And then I thought last night, as I was having my shower thoughts, I don't know why I have the best thoughts in the shower, but I do. I was like, oh shit, I could put, what I'd really like is on the Medio Scientific site, when you log into ChirpStack, the default ChirpStack was the implementation, like gives you a picture of gateways, which have basically, there's nothing that you can do if you're using Helium because you have all, whatever, 400,000 or 200,000 gateways that are up. Like, there's nothing out there. And I was like, it would be super cool if instead of showing a blank nothingness, it showed the gateways that your devices on your account are using the most. And it had like a pie chart where it's like, oh, it's using, amateur jade hair the most, and then it's, whatever the next thing is, the next thing. So you could look and see like, okay, this is where most of my stuff is happening. And especially if you're running a bigger account, it might be interesting to see like, oh, most of the time amateur jade hair runs all of my stuff, but right now it's running nothing, like maybe something's wrong. And I thought, well, shit, I'll just build that in Grafana in the meantime. Yep, all the updates on that when that tutorial goes live will be on medioscientific.com, link down in the description there, and I'm slowly building out codecs one at a time. We talked about data structure last time. Last thing I've got, we're going to do this in under 10 minutes, Joey. Fuck yeah. Is if you like deploying deep and stuff, check out Flywheel Systems. They've done all the graphics for this show, and Crush, and link again down in the description. And that is it. That's the show. We're done. Joey, let's talk shit. What's going on, dog?
Beautiful. I'm trying to take notes in my head of all the stuff that we run through there. We haven't talked about Aki and Nils on the show before.
That guy's a crusher. Super impressive.
Yeah. So I met him in Singapore. He was on one of the panels that I did there. And I think it was the last panel of the day. I was dragging a little bit, and he comes on with this energy that is just like, wake the fuck up. This is stuff that's important. I just demonetized you. You're welcome. Um, uh,
God, if I was doing
and
this for money, I would have stopped a long time ago, Joey.
um, but like just the clarity of thought around the interplay of all of these different DePINs and effectively how they are the only way that you're going to get to the sort of world that we need to get to
Yep.
of enough data, enough throughput, enough, XYZ to be able to enable all of these AI applications and automations and things like that. And so their org has done this really deep dive on like how can we do augmented reality like data collection in spaces, and they're looking at grocery stores as this prime example. And so they go and map the entire grocery store, and then they can have these robots go around and aid the employees in the restocking operations, and
Yep.
they can create these like task board. It's like we need more beans, we need more
Yeah.
rice, and then all of that stuff is just like very clear. So then you as a customer, you go in, there's always beans on the shelf. um,
Yeah. No, he's got a
and
good story. He tells
like
it well, and he's super energetic. I like Nils.
Yep. And I guess one of the other interesting things for me with him and their organization is like he's Swedish but living in not Singapore, Shenzhen,
Is he living in
or
Shenzhen? I thought it
Hong
was
Kong or
Singapore.
something.
Okay, I was wrong.
Yeah, I could be wrong too.
He's not living in San
Um,
Diego. I'll tell you that.
yep, and hence the 6 a.m.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Right.
they I have found following him on Twitter to be a really interesting insight into the sort of tech scene that's happening out there. So he'll post these pictures of meetups and people are building robot arms and all sorts of cool stuff, and it's pretty awesome to see.
Yeah.
Normally we don't get those kind of updates in our tech circle. We see a lot of AI and Sam Altman and all that kind of stuff, but it's a whole different perspective. So
Yeah.
uh,
No, he's doing a good job.
thumbs up on following him out there. There's some cool stuff happening.
He's also, and this is not. I mean, it's not really an Easter egg, but if you read their white paper, the very first person that he lists in the acknowledgments is Terrence McKenna, and Terrence McKenna is a super well-known writer. I want to say writer in the psychedelic world. So if you're into psychedelics
Hmm.
at all, that's like a massive signal that like, hey, I am all about this. Which I think in Nils's case is mostly about like, hey, opening. I don't know. I'm not going to speak for him. My takeaway was that this dude is okay with like opening his mind pretty wide. So
Yep. You
yeah,
kind of have to for some of these like out of the box thinking. And I think what's really cool is the way he's tied it together in a really concrete way.
yeah.
So anyway,
Let's see. I missed some of the questions. So there's 619 cruising in. Angry fellow. Yeah, he is the angry fellow, and he's telling me that the entire community is upset. I think we're talking about Hivemapper. So there we go. Yeah, I don't
this
know. Like I'll
reminds
tell
me
you.
of when Boat, like
Yeah,
Keenan's in the audience there. Like
yeah, yeah. I think this is
shipping
just
stuff is hard. I empathize.
yeah, yeah, and I get it. Like I get both sides where it's like, oh, why don't they fucking shipping? And the other side is like, hardware is super hard. I'll tell you this: I've had a fair amount of interactions with Ariel over the past couple of years, and there has never been an interaction where I walked away thinking like, that guy's just like not really taking this seriously. That dude works super hard. He is like driven to get all this stuff done right, and I'm sure he is far more upset that this hasn't happened than anyone in the audience. Although I'm sure it also doesn't feel that way, especially if you put up good money and you're just waiting on your thing to come in. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
But
I
those
think
streets aren't going to map themselves, right? You got to
no,
get out there.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, and I think this is like the classic thing is for 619 is like, hey, if you put the money down and you believed in them and they haven't delivered, I can see how you'd be angry. So
Yeah.
that's just how it goes. Let's see. I saw Siegfried was asking about anyone. I haven't looked into anyone. Are node runners protected from potential legal action if someone route illegal content through the node one is running? Is there such a risk? I don't know, Siegfried. I'm just going to run a bunch of these nodes. I'm going to run them all in their own public static IP. I'm going to play by the rules as best I can and see what happens. I think it's a interesting project, but I think like my guess is that the jury is generally out on all these different things. Although I'm sure I don't know, some cop would tell you like, no, you're responsible for everything that comes through your node, but It's like, it's anonymous. How do you know it goes through your node?
Yeah, well, it goes through your node and then straight to your ISP. So there's certainly room for concern there. It's
Yeah.
probably worth talking with the anyone team. Just be like, what is your thinking here on this? And yeah,
Oh, you're getting.
so
Are you getting the hum still,
er,
Joey?
all right, I'll mute for 5 seconds.
All right. So Joey's muted. I'm guessing the hum is me because I was fucking around with my mic settings a while ago.
You had a little bit of a hum when I joined, and it died
Let's
off pretty
see.
quick.
So
But
if I mute,
oh yeah, no more hum.
fuck. All right.
Ooh,
Well, that's
there it
what.
is, nice and spicy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. What do I need to turn down here? Probably this and this and this. That's me.
Ooh, oh yeah, we're sounding good now.
Was that any better? Are you still getting? Are you still getting the hum,
Still,
or is it
it's still there, just the
still there? Maybe I
slightest
turn it
bit,
down
but
just a little bit, and I think,
maybe tolerable for Teague.
yeah. Well, Teague's a wizard there. God, I wonder. Can you still hear me? I'm guessing you can.
I can hear you. Yeah.
All right. I think this is actually. I bet I could tone that. Nope. Oh yeah, that should work. All right. Not only a hum, but every week Nick's mic seems slightly low. There is a dude who complains about that as well. But I'm looking at the levels on my side. I mean, not that this is any excuse, and they seem like they're okay, but clearly they're not. So
Maybe
that.
maybe the AirPods are just coming
Oh,
over
are you still
high.
muted, Joey? Oh wait, no, you're not. I
Um,
just turned my headphones down.
okay, there we go.
There you go. 5x5. Cool. All right. Well, I will. We'll work on fixing it later. We've got better things to do than talk about my hum.
Yeah. So this Grafana stuff, what kind of things are you excited to see people build with it? Like once you get these things out here, what does it feel like the right toolkit for?
um, I think there's actually two pieces. One is just like the kind of, I don't want to say it the wrong way, the sub-average guy, like the person like me who's really interested in this, but it just takes forever to get it right and to figure out like how do you actually see the data without having to
Mhm.
learn the entire thing. That's the first piece is like, okay, and whatever data is that they want to see, whether it's people walking by their house or people walking into their shop or whether or not there's a water leak or anything. And I think one of the things I learned from Thomas over at Tinkart was that people don't look at dashboards, is that I think actually the bigger picture is just showing people here are these three tools that you can use together. You can use Node-RED to stitch all these things together. You can use InfluxDB to store your data, and you can use Grafana to see it if you want to. But in learning how those three tools work together, and it's probably most especially Node-RED, is it opens up the ability to say, okay, now I can trigger actions off of these things that come in. So
Mhm.
as the
And
CO2 goes up in my room, maybe like a light triggers, like super basic stuff, but then it becomes really custom.
So I haven't gone super deep on Node-RED, but I have to imagine one of the things that's nice about it is that for each step of the process, you can kind of see what is happening to your data.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's one of the hardest things in writing code is holding in your mind, like I'm transforming all of this stuff, and then it's going to end up over here, and sort of trusting that that happens. Um, and then when it doesn't happen, you get a 404 or something like that, and everything breaks, and understanding why, like you would just sort of see all of that listed. And so you're just basically dealing the cards like further down the table for the actions you're trying to do.
Yeah. Let me see if I can find, I'm looking for like the windows where I've been working on this. I've got so many open. I wonder if I close that one. Let's see. Let's see if I can share this screen and I'll show you a little bit of it because it is kind of cool. Neil had been the one, BFG Neil was like, dude, you got to do this Node-RED thing. And I was like, all right. I mean, I'll try it.
Mhm.
And I'd wanted to do it for a while. New camera overlay. The fuck, I think. Is this it? No, there's got to be a screen
It's
share
just,
thing.
I'm
Oh,
imagining
yeah.
this is like the same reason that people like Zapier and some of those other like if this then that
Yeah.
type tools.
Not the primary display, but Google Chrome and this one thing. I think this is what I want to show. I think this is it. Okay. And then I'll just make this much bigger so that you can actually see it. Yeah, so this is the tutorial here. I'll just put it over both of us.
Yeah, yeah. Make it even
And
bigger.
maybe that's as big as I can make it. So
Okay.
for right now, this is what we'll just kind of. So this is node red, and you just tie in these nodes. So this blue one is an injection node. So I took a payload that I'm getting from my LDDS75, the ultrasonic liquid level distance measure. And then these green nodes are debug nodes. So it goes from the inject node, which is
Mm.
basically pretending that it's an HTTP in. So it's like this pretending that you're getting it from the LNS, but rather than firing it every minute, you can just fire it whenever you want by hitting this button, and it injects it into the system. And then there's this JSON node that structures it. But at each step, you can add these debug nodes, and the debug nodes will show you on the side all these red letters here, like what's going on. So you can see what's coming out of the inject node. In this case, I think I'd taken most of my debug nodes off, but you can see at the end, like, oh, before it went to InfluxDB, this thing is what got sent to InfluxDB and what's coming back. And so it ends up being this kind of visual representation. Oh, now I'm going to fuck this whole thing up. How do I do this? It ends up being this visual representation of like how the data is flowing, and then seeing on the side what's happening as you break things. And that ended up being more useful to Cursor and Claude than to me, because I would just like copy and paste it in there and be like, hey, we broke this, what happened?
That's
No, tell me.
yeah, that's gonna be great.
Yeah.
Um, so I think the like call to action for folks in sort of prepping for this is like think about the thing that you want to sensor on. Think about what you need to measure, right? And then what sort of actions you want on the other side of it. Like, and you've got your busy light in the background, but this could be a text message to your phone, right? Like, there's a bunch of stuff that you can like push out there.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, the busy
there it
light heard
is.
you
Yeah.
talking.
I love those things. Um, but
Man.
like I guess my action for people is like think about a mailbox sensor, or think about a you know your garbage can in your kitchen, or anything like that. You could do a bunch of cool stuff there. Um, and I can't express enough how satisfying it is when you've built one of these things and it just works and it just runs. And like my sauna sensor thing has been running for months, and it works perfectly, and it fires off every time the thing heats up. It's great. So,
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's yes. It's like it's going to take some thinking for each person about what they can do, and I think that's the first piece. Like the
mhm,
stuff, I just have a hard time imagining, someone else's life in its entirety and what they're going to build. The stuff that I'm also excited about is like how do you take the rest of the network data, so the RSSI to the gateway, what gateway is processing your data, how often it's that gateway and not another gateway, like that kind of stuff just seems to be like nerdy and fun to me. And if I can display that and be like, oh, I thought all of my data from the AM319 indoor environment quality sensor was going through my hotspot, but it turns out that 20% of the time it goes through my neighbors. And should I make any changes to make sure it all goes through mine? Because it sends out a shitload of data, and if it runs through my hotspot, then it's more or less free to me. But if it runs through my neighbor's hotspot, then it's not.
mhm.
Either way, it's not very much, but it's just an interesting piece. Let's see. Siegfried's asking on this, which I think is semi-relevant here, just because you could use a data-only hotspot to do this stuff and not worry about setting up a full
He's
complement.
asking about mobile.
Oh,
I know this
hmm.
detail because I keep giving updates and he's very intrigued.
Ah,
But
boy, my last.
I think there's also uh, not even quite an update, but like an early stage thinking around some IoT stuff. But so mobile first. Um, the background here is that if you have enterprise grade Wi-Fi in a location, you can go and convert that to be Helium compatible.
Is this the brownfield thing?
And that's Brownfield.
Okay,
Yep.
cool.
Which is a terrible name.
It is,
Um,
yeah.
and they'll probably do some sort of framing around this of this is just, bringing your hotspots into the alliance of Helium,
Yeah,
or it'll be enterprise Helium or something like that.
sure.
I
Or you
will
can figure that out.
figure out yeah. Um, uh, but basically, yeah, you can take your gateway. Today, you have to go talk to the sales team at Nova Labs, and they'll put you in a pipeline, get you all set up, create the rewardable entities the way it's currently designed, because they will also sort of work through the carrier offload stuff, which has some additional overhead. Um, they'll create a wallet that holds that entity in it, and then they can do disbursements of mobile tokens to you or USDC to you for a smaller fee and stuff like that. Pretty good setup. I think they're like running it really well. So if you've got sites like that, go hit them up. There's a link on the helium.com website that'll just go straight in there.
We're just doing customer
The
service
thing
live on the
that's
call. Let me reach out to Scott real quick, Kevin.
oh I think I'm on that thread too. Apologies, holiday break, massive. Honestly, actually, if anyone's listening to this that emailed me or messaged me over the break, I'm just sorry. It's like
Yeah.
so much stuff. Um, we'll please ping me again, and we'll keep things moving. Um, anyway, so the thing that Siegfried is excited about here is not talking to a sales team, right? And what this is going to look like is you'll be able to use the Helium CLI. And I was just on a call before I joined this. We're getting some final details sorted out there. You can create the rewardable entity for your wallet that's connected to that wallet CLI. This is going to be a CLI only tool out of the gate. The enterprise hardware stuff is already this sort of like technical tier. Like this doesn't have to be the like super polished, beautiful experience that we try to do with Helium all the time. It's a technical thing to begin with. We're going to stick you with the CLI. As that scales, we'll make it prettier. But that will create the rewardable entity inside your wallet. It'll be enabled for Helium mobile carrier offload. It will not be enabled for the third party carrier offload. So the MVNOs and MVNOs that are on there. That has a lot to do with us being able to trust the location of these devices, because we don't have coverage mapping deployed yet. Once coverage mapping is at scale and it's giving us enough data to be able to analyze and visualize those deployed sites, then we can start to go and on a case-by-case basis, just as we see with the Helium mobile hotspots, go enable carrier offload for the carriers that want those sites. So
Cool.
getting in now creates the entity. You start earning with hardware you've already bought. For any Helium mobile subscribers, Nova has already stated that #1 priority for the year is to grow that user base. So we'll start seeing more and more people going to those locations. And then as the network becomes more robust, as more subscribers come on, as we have more data, then we can start to unlock more of the carrier offload stuff. If you're interested in carrier offload today, you either got to go talk to the sales team. That'll continue to be a process there. Or just go set up a Helium mobile hotspot because it has the Skyhook and the GPS and all of the other
Everything
stuff
built
in
in.
it.
Yeah.
Yep. So bunch of info. I sort of blasted a bunch of stuff out there. I probably skirted over the one thing that Siegfried is actually interested in, which is a date. And I'm just going to say soon, that it before the end of the month. So, assuming there's no major hiccups, it is in the can, if I dare say.
Oh, Joey, nice. Nice.
Yeah,
There we go.
gotta bring it back.
I need Kevin, I need an in the can graphic, please.
Anyway,
It's like in the
Siegfried,
trash can.
it was like a bean can or something, I think.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
All right, background info to understand it
Okay.
all
Yeah.
is interesting, cool. And I think
Cool.
actually
Yeah.
I'm pretty
Hopefully
sure.
not too much there.
Yeah. Nope. That's cool. Oh, Kevin says he's done with whatever's. Oh, he's gonna done with the can thing. send me
Oh, he's
your
got it.
can image.
And Doug, I remember that commercial.
Yeah. All right. I think I actually fixed the hum. Maybe not, because I don't see it anymore.
I don't hear it. Yeah.
Fuck yeah. So I think what happened was when the cleaning lady cleaned my desk, there were some bits that were knocked slightly loose.
Classic. Yeah.
And I've got the gain turned up, so hopefully it's not as quiet as it was. Okay, cool.
Sound good.
What else is going on? I think I've been working on a bunch of so the the helium grant thing has been like the big focus. It's taken much longer than I thought it was going to. I always say it's going to be done at the end of this week. I'm sticking to that this week. I think I'll have it done at the end of the week.
Well,
But we'll
I,
see.
I want to quiz you a little bit on that because like you created this initial scope, you set a price, right? Um, is this feeling valuable? You're like Nick's sitting down and he's learning something, and I'm enjoying this process, or is this like I should have asked for more, and I wish I hadn't done this, or like what's the
Oh
feeling
no,
here?
like the
Because
best
like,
combination of
it-
both. So I'm learning a shitload by doing it. Really good. I will never do it for this cheap again.
okay, yeah,
Yeah, like I charged the correct price based on what I thought it was going to take. I just massively underestimated what it would take, and
hmm
yeah, the next grant that I put in for anything, I think part of it is understanding the scope, and part of it is also overestimating my own abilities or whatever it is, and just like every time you put something in, it gets a little bit better. I mean, funnily enough, when I put in that government grant, I was going after this. I forget what they're called, SIBRs, Small
hmm
Business Innovation Research Grants. I was doing this time last year for the VO2 mask. I put that grant in, and I think the total budget was like 1.2 million. It was a big grant.
wow,
And at first I wrote the whole thing. I'm like, I can do this for like 400 grand and do a great job. And then I sent the whole thing to a buddy of mine, and he was like, dude, you can't put it in for that low. Like, they don't want to spend that little, which is funny because now it's kind of topical to the current political conversation of the Department
hmm
of Governmental
hmm
Efficiency.
they do want to spend that little, yeah.
Yeah. So I then went back and I bumped up all the numbers and basically said, okay, well, I'll just add way more labor cost to it. And there's a bunch of like rebalancing out because they want the grants to be structured in a certain way, and they don't want you to give any contractor that much. They don't want it to be like a totally contracted out thing. They want a bunch of it to be in-house. So I had to restructure it,
hmm
and I ended up coming in and submitting something. I think it was like 900,000 or a million. I'm like, dude, I'll present the best offer. I'll come in under everyone else because all these other government contractors are trying to get the most out of this thing. And this will be like so far beyond anything that I could do this extraordinarily superb job. And then of course, I didn't get maybe you didn't know, I didn't get the grant. So I didn't get anything. But it was a funny thing where it's like, I underestimated, and then I was like, fine, you guys want me to charge more, I'll charge more. And then who knows what the reason was they didn't go. Although I've been told that the way you know who's going to win the grant is when you read the RFP, the request for proposal, which is a snide way of saying that they just write grants for specific people and only pretend to put it out to the public.
Right.
And my bitter self believes that, but whatever. I didn't fucking get the thing. It was
Right.
super fun to do that. I learned a ton. And then yeah, if I write another government grant, I will write it for the full amount, no matter what it's going to cost, until Elon and Vivek figure out how we actually correctly charge for these stupid things.
A lot of $5 nuts and bolts and stuff, I guess, is what gets the job done.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think when I think about it, I get worked up because I'm like, dude, I think I could have done that thing in about 7 months. And I put in that it would take me 9 months because I'm like, oh, I'll take the extra 2 months. And I at first had, when I put the initial piece together, I was like, oh, I can do it for 400. I was like, this is pretty tight. Like I could work pretty hard and hustle everyone to get this done. And I put in for almost 3 times that amount, and they still didn't do it. And every so often I'm like, I'm going to go look and see what actually happened with whoever won that grant,
Mm,
because I haven't seen anything yet.
mm.
And my guess is that like nothing will happen, that someone just got $1.2 million to do some shitty job. And that, again, that's bitter me talking.
I
Let's
feel
take
it. Yeah.
the helium mobile off. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah, that
So
stuff's tricky. And I also wonder if like they have some expectation when they publish these things of like, this is going to have to take, 2 years to do it right, and it's going to take $10 million. And so then this guy comes in for a tenth on both angles of it. And they're like, there's no way he's actually going to do this the way we want it. And
yeah,
just out of the experience of government contracts or something.
yeah,
Who knows?
yeah.
Um,
I think
yeah.
they give you a reason if you ask for it about why it got denied, and I think it was that I didn't have enough expertise in there,
Mm,
which to me was like it was fucking crazy because the two people I'd found. One was the only guy that has done any significant VO2 mask testing, agreed to
Hmm.
be on this grant with me and to do more testing. So it's like literally you can't find anyone who is any more expert in testing these masks. And
Right.
then the other guy was someone who designed a ton of stuff. Like there's this list of things, and I think the thing that stood out was like nuclear submarine engineering design. I was like, I think this dude can fucking handle a VO2 mask. But
Mm.
whatever, I didn't get it, so I got something wrong.
Right. Right. Hmm. I threw a link in
Oh,
the guest chat thing.
yeah.
I put a so Amir posted last night of um, one of those hotspot mounts that I did, and I've shown those off here.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
There
I'm
it is.
trying to get a pulse of like, oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just saying it's in the chat. Let me take a look at this thing actually.
Cool, cool.
So
Yeah.
we're all looking at the same thing.
So beautiful install. This is one of the disaster deploy rigs in North Carolina. It's on, I'm actually not sure what building, but you know, providing coverage for a community out there that had been impacted from the flooding. Um, the
Oh yeah, that
I
looks
think
good, dude.
opportunity. Oh, it's yeah, it's glorious. I love it. It's a beautiful picture, and I think we're going to get a couple more of those, set up soon. Um, but as Mexico starts to scale and people are doing more of these outdoor deployments and stuff, I think there is room for this to be a little bit of product. And what I want to know is like, how far do I have to push the manufacturing cost down, the shipping, the packaging, like all that stuff to get these things in people's hands for the right price. It's hard doing the manufacturing stuff, like sourcing a factory to build something like this. Um, so I'm just trying to get a pulse. So what I posted there is a poll. So like look at the thread, get a sense for like what the thing is, and then give me your honest input there. Um, Also, if you know of any metal manufacturing outfits, whether US or abroad, um, would be happy to have a conversation there and see if that's something that they think they can get a reasonable price point to. And yeah, Teague, that's with the J. So it's a Ubiquity J pulse, the UBAM or whatever, and then this bracket sits on top of it, and then it's all just designed to be a really quick install. What was it like wing nuts and trailer hitch pins? There's no on-site screwdriver fastener stuff that you're going to have to do.
You probably just need to get a government grant and then not worry about the cost.
That's the way to do it. Give me a bunch of metal.
Fucking
Um,
ridiculous thing.
I think, yeah, like I did. Maybe you can throw a screenshot on screen. A couple people aren't able to see it, um, but it probably needs a round two. There could be a little bit of price trimming just based on some of the design decisions that I made. Everything right now is 3/16 aluminum. It's like pretty beefy. Some of that stuff was done intentionally just because it eliminated other parts that would be needed. But some of it, maybe at scale I can get cheaper if I include those more parts or something.
All right, let me see if I can pull this thing up.
But the general idea is these would probably just get sold with hotspots at cost. It's like I'm buying a hotspot, let me throw in the extra whatever bucks, because I'm buying three of them. I'll get this thing, and then it'll really speed up my install or something. Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
And if you're doing a Starlink configuration, there's room on top for a Starlink because that's what it was designed for. So,
Yeah.
a pretty versatile thing.
Link to post before showing mount. Is that with the JPO? Oh, I'm seeing all the comments now. And Fred. Good morning, guys.
Mm.
Happy New Year. Where were you last week, Fred?
Yeah.
I'm giving you a hard time. You're fucking awesome. Um, yeah, I don't know that I would. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know that I would worry that much about the. Maybe I'm wrong. Driving the cost down. I would worry more about. Does it really matter if it's 40 or $80 or $70 for folks in an emergency? Like, does the extra $30 make that much of a difference?
Oh, yeah, I should be. This is not about emergency stuff anymore. When it was emergency stuff, it was $80 and that was easy to spend.
Yeah.
But uh, if we were to take these and then create this as an offering for people that are out there deploying hotspots
Okay.
in every day, yeah, and then people start looking at the price a little differently.
Got it. Okay. I mean, that makes sense. And I'm trying to think of, I remember when I first saw it, I'm like, oh, I'm going to get one of those. And I'm like, I don't really have a place to put 3 multi-covering things. Like, I just don't have a place where I need to put these hotspots right now.
Yeah, it's kind of rare to have like the perfect setup for that, like the corner of a building maybe where you're like pointing
But even
2
then, you're
out and 1
covering, if
forward.
one of them's pointing towards the roof of the building, right?
Corner of the building. So if you could do, you get, I don't know, triangle sitting on top of building, 2 going down the streets on the side and 1 across the street, kind of
Oh, I
a,
see. Yep. Yep.
if you see what I'm saying. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Um, but yeah, when you've got one blasted right back at the building, you're not doing so great with that one. Maybe it starts to become indoor coverage, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I know as we put the coffee cart thing together at Paleo Treats, we'll be either moving the current helium hotspot that's indoor and just getting it closer where the coffee stuff is, or maybe getting a couple more hotspots. But even then, like, it's such a small footprint. The whole space is 700 square feet. We don't need that many hotspots. Maybe we put something in the back to cover the parking lot, and that just makes it a little better coverage. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I did. I think I
Anyway,
talked.
that's,
Maybe good.
I'll just say like people watching, take a look at this. You're helping me out trying to get a sense for like how far we have to push on this. Even more, thank you if they know of somebody that can build these things.
Yeah. I can't imagine that there's not someone in San Diego that could crush these things because we have such like a big off-road community here that loves to weld and put shit together. So maybe as I'm fucking around with figuring out this coffee cart thing, which either I have to weld it, which would be super fun, but I don't think I have the time for it, or I just have to find someone who's actually super good and it'll take them not that much time to do a much better job than I could.
Come down and weld it for you.
Yeah.
I got some steel. Yeah.
It's like, that would be awesome. Should I tell this? No, I've got this welding school story that's funny, but not appropriate for public consumption. It's my
Does it,
first
in,
day welding school.
does it have to do with oxygen and acetylene in a confined environment?
No, it's no, it has nothing. It has nothing to do with
I'm
anything to do
baiting
with
you
welding.
now. Yeah.
I'll tell you
Okay.
some other time. But yeah, it was the funny. I got to this place and it was at the time the Navy was paying and still pays for. I think it's not called on-the-job training. It's like basically the equivalent of like a trade school. So instead of the GI Bill, which sends you to college, this thing, Voc Rehab, I think it's called. So like, hey, we trained you to be a soldier. Now we're going to retrain you to be something useful to society because you can't go just swinging your gun around and hope that you make money with that. And I took advantage of that and went to this welding school here in San Diego. And on day one, I had this experience. It's like, oh shit, I'll learn about welding, but I'll actually like these people want me to be something that I'm not interested in being.
Mm.
So, but yeah, so the
Yeah.
welding piece, I'm not super worried about the skill side. I'm sure it could be done better than I can do it, but it's more like the time side and laying it out, saying, okay, here's how long it takes to build something nice. I haven't found a way to make that way faster.
Yeah. Collecting up all the right machines is the hardest. It's a lot of gear in welding and
Yeah.
doing it right at least. But,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that was one of my failed businesses. I bought all the stuff you needed for welding, and then I realized you actually had to have customers, and instead of just all the stuff.
it's not if you build it, they will come. Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did welding for fun, so not as a career thing, but it was
Yeah.
great to learn that stuff in a
Yeah. I mean,
good
it's funny. I
environment.
spent so much time learning stick, and you're like, the vertical and horizontal and overhead and all that stuff. And then I got to MIG and I was like, oh shit, that's like a glue gun. Like if you can use a
Oh, it's
glue
so
gun, you can
easy.
weld.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, and then the teacher I had was like super into metallurgy, which helped. We're probably way too deep in this topic, but that's anyway, we'll nerd out about welding one of these days.
yeah. Yeah.
It's good
Nick worked
stuff.
for NASCO building ships that got stuck in the Suez. No, I did not work for NASCO. I ended up going to the school, and I think once I got to MIG or just before TIG, I was like, dude, I can do all this stuff. I'm going to go start my own business, and dropped out after a couple months. and went to start my own business, and it was a total failure. And I lost pretty much everything with that, and then started over again. So,
Yep, live and learn.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. But I think I was on this, it was actually this kind of cool story. Years later, I was doing these things where we did some work on container ships. So we pick up the big cargo ships, like the Maersk 1,000-foot long cargo container ships. We pick up the ship in the Suez Canal and cruise down the Red Sea and around the Arabian Peninsula, and then up into the Persian Gulf or over to Sri Lanka or India or whatever. And so we'd be on these things for a month at a time. And the work we were doing there was security related. So there's like no expectation that we were going to do any other thing. And I got on there, there's like a 3-man team that would get assigned to these boats. And you'd be standing these watches for whatever, couple hours a day, but it was like the work was super, super light. And unless you got attacked by pirates, there is nothing to do other than look at the ocean. And so we're always like, the guys who get assigned there are usually pretty proactive. And so we'd always be looking for stuff to do. And at one point on one of the ships, and we did this for about a year, me and this other guy, he had done the same thing I'd done. So we had the same kind of background, but he'd also been in the Navy, they call them nukes, which can mean anything, but in his case was a nuclear welder. So like welding on the reactors, like super good at the thing. Me and him were like, hey, Captain, like, what do you got? What can we help out with? There's not much to do here. And he's like, oh, I got a couple things. Like, what are you good at? We're like, oh, we can weld. And he's like, yeah, you probably can't. And he sent us down to the engine room, and the engine room on container ship is a fucking engineering marvel. Like, it's this radical thing. There's two kind of main pieces. There's like the super nerdy dials and gauges, which is a small room about the size, maybe a little bit bigger than the size of the room I'm in. So maybe instead of like 10 by 10, it's like 20 by 10, but it's just this wall of gauges. And then you walk through a door and you're in the actual engine room. And I think it's like 3 or 4 stories high, all the shit that goes into powering those ships. And down at the bottom of it, you go down and you see, and this will sound super sexual, but it's not, it's just this amazing thing. You see the shaft of the ship, and that thing is such a fucking giant piece of metal. It's something like, I don't know, like 4 to 6 feet wide. It's this giant piece of metal, and it's got to be giant because it's pushing the screw that's pushing the ship through the water. And I would, when I got on these ships, I'd always go down and just look at that thing because it was so goddamn big, and like wrapping my mind around how much metal was in there was always amazing. So they sent us down to the engine
We've
room.
got to get
Good.
I'm just injecting. We've got to get Frederick from Sourceful,
Okay.
Sourceful.
Yeah.
His alma mater was a ship school, and his I think doctor's thesis was around energy and these ships and the generation, and it's pinned up on the wall outside this 3-story simulation of an engine room. Um, coolest thing. So yeah.
Oh, that's rad. Now I
Um,
have to talk about it. It was always, the crazy thing there, I'll finish the welding story. So we
yeah,
get
yeah.
sent down there and they have I think they have like 3 levels. They have the chief engineer and then the second mate or the first mate is like, I forget exactly what it was, of engineers. And they gave us, I think we talked to the chief engineer at first, and he's like, you guys can weld? And we're like, yeah, give us something to do. And he's like, okay. And he took us over and he's like, I'll put these pieces together. And it'd been a while since I ran a stick, but I fucking ran it and ran a decent bead. And he's like, okay. And then he turned to my buddy, to Buren. He's like, do you want to try it too? And Buren he was actually a professional welder when he wasn't doing the stuff we were doing. And that dude just laid this fucking perfect bead super fast and did it like super casual. And then the chief engineer's like, yeah, you guys can do whatever you want. Like, here's a couple projects. And we spent a lot of time doing those projects, mostly me watching Buren weld because he was way fucking better than me. But the other interesting thing there was that we would be doing like 20 knots, and the difference between 20 and 21 or 22 was an enormous cost to the ship. And so they would only do it in certain areas it kept the threat level down. It's just much harder for pirates to come on board when you're going faster than they can go, or as fast as they can go when they're maxing out. Or if they needed to like make a certain port because a berth was opening up. But it wasn't, of course, me coming in as like a jackass, having really only been on small boats before, like a 22-foot sailboat. You come onto something that's like 1,000 feet long, and you just don't think about the cost implications of like, hey, we're going to go half a knot faster. So,
Wow.
yeah, cool stuff.
Huh, yeah. I'm just like lost in the imagination of all this stuff you'd be seeing on there. That's pretty cool.
Oh, super rad. It was
And
also, it was like, this was in 2011. So now 12, 14 years ago.
mhm.
I don't think I could have pulled it off then. Maybe if I'd done like another 6 months and just gotten a little more slick talking to captains and maybe had like a repeat captain, because you get a new captain on every ship. You just be picking up these ships all the time. And I built a couple of relationships with some of them that I think were good enough. If I'd gone on again, I could have brought my wife on with me, which is probably a stretch. But I know that you used to be able to do that because the G-class Maersk, so the container ships that have the big superstructure on them, have these
Mhm.
living quarters that are nice. Like it's certainly not a cruise ship. And then on the level below, so the uh, top of the superstructure is the bridge. So you can see in almost all directions. You can see every direction, but directly back. Super cool to be up there and just see like a storm rolling in or anything. And it's not a cruise, but it's a really cool thing. I was like, it would be rad if I could bring my wife with me, because the beds are big enough for two people. The berths are big enough. Like it's not an extra huge cost. It was such like a cool kind of old adventure-y thing to do. And I never rode enough ships to actually get it to happen. But like getting on those ships and doing a trip on one of them, it's probably not worth getting your license for, but it's, if you ever get the chance, if you ever meet someone at a party and they're like, oh, you want to come on this thing? And it seems like it's an awful lot of work to do, like just fucking do it. It's rad.
Yep. Yeah, those opportunities don't come along very often.
Mm-mm.
I think one of the other crazy things is the sound of the engine room. Like, was it just impossible to talk? Because like that was one of the things with the simulator that I got to check out,
Yeah.
is they had speakers around the entire thing that were so loud that you couldn't talk to somebody that was right in front of you.
Yeah.
Uh,
Super loud and
you
super
have to
hot.
have hearing pro. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Oh yeah,
Yep.
and it was hot in there too.
Yep. Now you put in ear pro when you went in. I always put double ear pro because I'd done enough damage to my ears already. Um, and then just hot. And especially, Red Sea in August, like there's nowhere to cool
Mm,
off.
mm,
So I
wow.
forgot what to say. So the top level is the bridge. Just below the bridge is, I think it's the where the captain has has his berth, and maybe the chief engineer has his berth as well. But there's also a swimming pool, and it's like it's probably a swimming pool the size of the room I'm in. It's like 10 feet by 10 feet and 8 feet deep or something. And so it's always like this kind of mini luxury. You'd get a G class because you get assigned to these ships. You wouldn't get to choose.
Mm.
And my buddies always got like super shitty deals. They'd get on with like a Chinese crew that ate like fish heads for 8 weeks straight. And I'd get on these G classes or these Ro-Ros, which are the roll on, roll off, like the big car carriers that were total luxury. And I'd be like, I'm going to take some laps in the swimming pool. And you just put a little elastic band on and swim, while my buddies are sucking hind tit on some other shitty ship. I was always getting good deals, but yeah, cool thing.
Wow.
Getting off
Wild,
track there.
wild,
Not
wild
deep in.
stuff. Yeah, yeah. No, it's fascinating. It was a good diversion. Um, I got nothing to follow that up with. That's just
Okay.
deep a different domain, I guess.
Yeah. 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 I think one thing to think about with DePIN is I got asked this morning, like, hey, how should we, and we talked about this with the KOL, the influencer management tool, I think last week or the week before, is this
Hmm.
guy was asking me like, hey, how should I, how should I reward these KOLs and what should I do? And like, who should I talk to? And it just hit me. I don't think there's anyone who really has, like, there hasn't been enough time to have a shitload of experience in the Web3 marketing world in DePIN. There's Web2 marketers that have decades of experience. And that was my recommendation to this guy. He's like, hey, go find someone, expect to spend to pay a lot of money because they're going to be super good. And then for anyone who says like, I'm a DePIN marketing expert, just don't fucking believe him. I don't think there's anyone here who's had enough experience doing Web3 DePIN marketing. And really the answer is like, you just wait for the market to turn and then you hold on as tight as you can and hope you're organized.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
not a great answer, but
Yeah. And uh, crypto in general is in a very confusing place with meme coins and these like Telegram groups that sort of control the waves. And so there's external forces that are just, you're just going to ride it out. So,
yeah. Yeah, it's just a big
yeah.
chaotic thing. I mean, in the meantime, I was like, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to build up this Medio Scientific business thing and just do the best job I can on that as like my little kind of micro side hustle. and just make it like
Hmm.
this amazing resource for people who are using the Helium LoRaWAN, and that's who I'm going to serve. And that's going to be small enough that I'm guessing other people aren't going to come in and fight for that thing, and it's going to be interesting enough to me that I can do a good job on it. But
Yeah, no, it's a good one. I'm going to be in there today doing a little bit of testing. So yeah, I've got some stuff that I'll be doing a little API work on
oh,
Media
cool.
Scientific. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I also saw there's a direct integration with InfluxDB on there, which I had just totally passed over before. But now that I'm using it, I was like, oh shit, you
Oh,
don't need to send it to Node-RED. You could just go directly to InfluxDB.
oh. I'm gonna have
But
to,
I'll,
I honestly, every time I'm in that integrations panel, I gloss over everything except for the HTTP one. It's just what I'm used to. But
yeah.
yeah, I should probably play around with some of those a little bit more.
Yeah, for education stuff, you can set up Google Sheets. I did a tutorial on that
Mhm.
because someone had asked me like, hey, how do you integrate it with Google Sheets? And I think it ends up being an HTTP thing to some, I forget what the thing is in Google. But yeah, now that I'm doing this, now that PFG Neil has
Yeah.
pushed me into learning this Node-RED thing, it opened my eyes to a bunch of other possibilities. And so it's like, I bet I could do a tutorial on every single integration except MQTT, which doesn't work on that for reasons of, if I'm getting it generally like privacy and security, you can't, the way that it's set up, you can't offer MQTT to everyone because it's all on the same account.
Mm. Hmm. Okay.
So like, you can't do it in Medio Scientific. Like if you, Joey, were to run your own LNS, you could then
You
use
can do
it,
it.
but I can't do it because I have whatever 180, 200 people using the thing,
Hmm.
and they'd all have to use the same MQTT server. I guess that'd be cool if I could make that available, but I'm not sure. Maybe
Hmm.
that's another grant.
Yeah. I,
I'm
I knew
not
there
going
were
to
some
underestimate that one.
complications.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Or do you co-grant with Paul or something like that?
Yeah.
So he's
Yeah.
put some
I
thought into
got
it.
to talk to Paul about how we do some different visualizations in the MetSci thing. Cause the current dashboard is basically unuseful
Hmm.
other than to show you how many
My
devices are on or offline.
my dream there, which we didn't have enough bandwidth for, but was basically to throw away the entire front end of SerpStack as it is, and then rebuild a new one, just using all of the same, because the front end is just API calls into the back end.
Mm-hmm.
And so you could build your own interface.
I bet
Um,
fucking Kent did,
and
that motherfucker.
right, yeah. I think they had forked the thing and they were going to do some stuff, but yeah, you could go completely from the ground up and just say like, I'm going to do the access stuff today, and you build that, and I'm going to do adding devices, and you can build all the nice abstractions, and it starts to, I think, look a lot like the old console in my mind, of not having to worry about the region configurations and a bunch of other stuff like that. Um, the other, and then bringing in the hotspot visualizations and all that other cool stuff would be really neat. So
Yeah. No,
someday.
I mean, I don't think we talked about Devin last time, did we? What is it? Cognition.ai. Did we talk about this?
Sounds
500 bucks a month
familiar.
for a
Yeah.
junior software engineer that's actually an AI.
Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think when I finish the grant, I've got a couple more projects, mostly around making Media Scientific much better and more useful,
Mm.
and then interacting more with the MetSci basically email list. I forget how many people are. I think the last time it was 180. It's probably 200 now, who have checked it out or
Mm.
used it or whatever, and just saying like, hey, how do I make this thing more useful to you? And here are a couple new resources, including this tutorial piece. But I thought maybe a 2025 goal would be to build my own front end for MetSci and then figure out with Paul how we
Mm.
do that. And if he uses that as well, or I use that or whatever, that's an option. Cause I know we can do a lot better as far as making it more useful.
Yeah. Not to
So
mention mobile responsive for the occasional times where you're out in the field and you just need to see if a device is working.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's so many things that you could do with that because it's got all of the information there. Like if you had, if you wanted to test something and you just had a field tester, if you could do that on the dashboard versus having a totally separate thing, and all you need to see is like, hey, I hit this button and I can see on the dashboard, maybe I drug that widget in for this tester. Like every time I hit a tester, you just open it up on mobile, like, cool, we're getting what we need to get. That would
Hmm.
be incredibly useful, I think.
Yeah. That I was doing exactly that in the early days before Mappers was like a robust thing. I'd just be out on a hike, like pressing a button, looking on my phone. So, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. Many
cool.
good things to do. Joey, super good to see you. Thanks for spending time. I will see you next week, right? Are you
Yes.
no plans on being vacation?
Uh, no,
Okay.
I got work to do. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. People are so funny. They're like, what'd you do on the holiday? Did you relax? I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I think I work like 15 hours every goddamn day. It's awesome. I can't get enough of this
Mm-hmm.
shit. So,
Yep, exactly. All
all
right.
right.
Well, I'll catch you next week.
Rock and roll. We're out. Take care.
Always
Thanks,
good.
guys.
Yep. Bye.